Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's lesson. Today I'm going to continue on in a series of lessons that's focusing on the four agreements. Now, this week's lesson's title is Be Impeccable with Your Word, Part 2. Our scripture today begins with Matthew 7, and it is the chapter 7, second verse. For with the judgment you make, you will be judged, and the measure you give will be the measure you get. Now, Luke 6:37 and 38 read, Do not judge and you will not be judged. I think you probably have heard this before. But are we proficient at it? That's my question. I'm not always proficient at it. Do not condemn and you will not be condemned. Forgive and you will be forgiven. Give and it will be given to you, a good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. Now, Luke 6:37 through 38 says, and will be put in your lap, for the measure you give will be the measure you get back. Next one is John 8, and this is a long one. It's verse 1 through 12. And the story goes, while Jesus went to the Mount of Olives early in the morning, he came again to the temple. Now, let's take a look at this from a metaphysical point of view. Jesus goes to the Mount of Olives early in the morning, and he came again to the temple. So he's saying, what they're saying here is that he's going within, he is connecting to that inner temple that is within him. Outer always is an expression of what's going on within the soul. So it goes on to say, all people came to him and he sat down and began to teach. Now, the scribes and the Pharisees brought a woman who had been caught in adultery, and making her stand before all of them, they said to him, Teacher, this woman was caught in the very act of committing adultery. Now, in the law of Moses, it commands us to stone such a woman. Now, what do you say? They said this to test him so that they might have some sort of charge to bring against him. But Jesus bent down and wrote with his finger on the ground. When they kept on questioning him, he straightened up and said to them, Let anyone among you who is without sin be the first to cast a stone at her. And once again, he bent down and wrote on the ground. When they heard this, they went away, one by one, beginning with the elders, and then Jesus was left alone with the woman standing before him. Goes on to say, Jesus straightened up and said to her, Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you? She said, No one, sir. And Jesus says, and this is really, really, really important, because this is the truth about God. And Jesus says, Neither do I condemn you. Go your way, and from now on, do not sin again. Our wisdom quotes. The first one is by Anonymous, and it writes, Tomorrow you'll have to live with the things you said. Second is by Habib Sadahi, and it reads, The very words we choose and where we direct them can mean the difference between life and death for any living thing, including ourselves. And last, speak words to yourself and others that encourage life. I matter. I am loved. I can make it. I'm hanging in there. I will not give up. I am blessed. I am a winner. I am more than a conqueror. I have favor with God and with man. God's going to get the glory out of this. And I am strong. I am healed. I am whole. I can do this. Yes, I can. Now, I'm pretty sure all of you remember the four agreements, but just in case you need a quick refresher, these are the four agreements. The first one, which is what we're focusing on today and concluding, be impeccable with your word. Next week, we'll take a look at don't take anything personally. And then it goes on to don't make assumptions and always do your best. Now, last week I spoke about the reality that our thoughts are like seeds planted in the soil of consciousness. And if the default setting of your mind is in the negative, then the thoughts from this space will reflect the negativity in your speech, behavior, and actions. They manifest as fear, a sense of lack, disconnected from love, judgments, untrusting, and shame. Such a level of awareness has a dire effect on your life and your well-being. Now, when the soil of the mind is positive, then the thoughts planted will manifest to reflect such a reality. They foster greater compassion, an elevated sense of knowing, receiving and giving love, creating happiness, and a sense of peace. Now, is that not what you want? We have to cultivate a positive mind. Now, this level of awareness is a witness to the divine and opens the door to their greater good unfolding. Such an awakening can occur at any moment. Every action has an effect. Every word evokes a response, and every action has a reaction. Now, today my focus is going to be on the word impeccable, and it comes from the Latin pectus, which means sin, and the im is the word in the word impeccable means without. So being impeccable means to be without sin. Now, what does that word sin mean? Now, in a religious context, sin is a transgression against divine law, while sins are generally actions, any thought, word, or act considered to be immoral, selfish, shameful, harmful, or alienating might be termed sinful. Now, to bring more clarity, in unity we see sin from a perspective as used as an archery term. Sin, as an archery term, is what is shouted when an archer misses the mark. When you miss the mark, the perfect center bullseye. Now, hear this. What's truly important is not what somebody else says about sin, but rather what you have determined in your own mind as what would be considered sinful. And from there, do you always stop yourself from committing those sins? This is tough stuff. Now, if you're truly, truly, truly honest with yourself, and I'm sure that you would have to admit at some point that sometimes you may not always be hitting the mark. Now, this does not mean that you're a bad person. Please hear me. It just means that as a human, you are working towards bettering yourself without the need of guilt and condemnation when you miss the mark either with others or with yourself. Now, if you remember, I did a whole series on learning how to love yourself. Loving yourself is not about stroking your ego, but rather it is the learning to accept yourself where you are in this present moment, knowing full well you are working on becoming better by taking care of you. And it all begins as you practice being impeccable with your word. Thoughts and words, well, they are extremely powerful. They are filled with energy, and being impeccable with your word is the correct use of your energy. Now, use your God-given energy toward creating a more loving and accepting world filled with peace, hope, and balance. And speak words that support others in their journey in life. Now, remember, we all have our own journey to awakening. So even if you do not agree with someone else's course, and it's okay not to agree, just make sure you don't judge them and their journey, and especially make them bad for the choices that they are making. Scripture reminds us, for the measure you give is the measure you get. And their journey is just as sacred to them and as it is yours. Their journey is sacred as it provides them with what they need to awaken, just as your journey continues to provide you with lessons that you need so that you can become more awakened to your spiritual self and what it is that you're up to and doing. Now, do not use your words to blame, to find guilt, or to destroy. Again, remember, the measure you give is the measure you get. So what is that saying here? Don't use your words to blame. How many times have you blamed somebody for your unhappiness? Well, they may have done something that has been very upsetting to you, but understand that the upset is in you. It's not in them. Now, do not use your words to gossip. And I know this is difficult for some people because they were brought up on gossip. And many times gossip, you see, is a mirror of one's judgments and opinions. Now, for years, we have received gossip and spells from the words of others which cultivate separation. Now, consider how many times you have gossiped about a person that you love, mostly to gain the support of others for your point of view. Now, That's not really very nice, but that's just something that humans do. Just understand that if you are listening to or you are involved in gossip about another person, it is more revealing about what's in your mind and that more than what it is about them. Now, how many times have you hooked other people's attention? And honestly, how many times have we kind of spread some poison about a loved one in order to make our opinion right? I know I've done that, and I'm sure that you have too. But that's not the way in which we need to live, because that way, again, destroys people rather than honoring God's creation. Your opinion is nothing but your point of view. It is not necessarily true. Your opinion comes from your beliefs, your own ego, and your own dream. We create all this poison and spread it to others just so we can feel right about our own point of view. Ouch. Which brings me to my next point. We talk to ourselves constantly, and most of the time we misuse our words by saying things that are not true of our divine nature. The use of negative words, words against us, that being that sin, that plays in our mind is poison as well. Now we say things to ourselves like, oh, look how fat I am, and I look ugly, or I'm getting older, I'm losing my hair, I'm stupid, I never understand anything, I will never be good enough. As long as you keep declaring something, even if the words are not spoken, you are directing your energy for you to create more of it. Now, most people think of prayer as asking God for something that they believe they don't already have. Now, praying from a space of lack will only create more lack, and it will never afford them a world of abundance. Now, here's an example that I hear people say, and that they are praying for patience. Oh, my Lord, don't do that, because in return, you're going to get every opportunity to practice it. Never pray or affirm or use your words about anything you do not want more of. Now, in truth, prayer is more than just taking a few minutes, asking God to do something for you, and returning to your old ways of thinking. Some people say, oh God, please help me quit smoking. And the next thing they do is they pick up a cigarette. Now, I'm not saying that cigarettes are bad. I'm not saying cigarettes are good. That is your decision. But what I'm saying is that we keep asking God for that, to do that for us, rather than realizing that it is within us, that God will work through us to help us rise. Remember that an old error way of thinking helped create what you did not want in the first place. So, the thoughts that you continually hold in your mind are your mantra. Just like the song says, our thoughts are prayers, and we are always praying. You see, Jesus taught us to pray in an affirmative. Unfortunately, so many people have not yet been taught, or they just don't understand this. But not so in Unity, because, we have to uncover every rock and look at it. But Unity uses affirmative prayer. Rather than begging or beseeching God, this method involves connecting with the Spirit of God within us first and asserting positive beliefs about the desired outcome. Now, affirmative prayer is the same method of prayer Jesus taught when he said, so I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it, as it is so already, because it is already. It already is in the mind of God. It's a matter of time until we are able to bring that forth into physical manifestation or our worldview shifts. That was Mark 11:24. Received it, and it will be yours. Now, I have to state this. Do not dismiss the physical world. I see some people who say that, that God's going to heal them, and God will heal them. But you don't need to, it's just like you don't want to put your hand in a fire and say, God's going to heal me. This is about practical stuff. It is just as real as our spiritual world. The physical world is equal with the physical world. Now, I know some of you would say, yeah, Andy, but that doesn't seem to work for me. Yes, it does. Because we have to start coming from that middle point to realize that our spiritual side and our physical side are all about spirit. Now, the physical world, though, is a reflection of what is happening within the consciousness of humanity. So don't dismiss this physical world, for it is there to awaken and to show us where we need to make the mental adjustments so we are able to continue living in human form and continue to experience the physical world. In other words, we are here to walk through this world, remain connected with God, and to create from that beautiful place that is within us, known as the Christ. Now, once you understand this first agreement, being impeccable with your word, and begin to actually practice it, you can know everything in the world, but if you're not practicing, it's not going to do you any good. So, to begin to actually practice it, you will begin to see all the changes that are happening in your life. Changes first in the way you deal with yourself, and later in the way you deal with other people, especially those you love the most. To be impeccable with your word, speak with integrity. Say only what you mean. Avoid using the word to speak against yourself or to gossip about others. Use the power of your word in the direction of truth and love. Now just imagine what you can create with the impeccability of your word. With the impeccability of your word, you can transcend the dream of fear and live a completely different life. You can live in heaven in the middle of thousands of people living in hell because you are immune to that hell. You can obtain the kingdom of heaven from this one agreement. Be impeccable with your word. Now, next week, we're going to begin to explore the second agreement. Don't take anything personally. And I have a question, though, that as I read that, I think to myself, is that always a good idea? Next week, we'll start to explore that. Now, I just want to take a moment to say again, thank you for tuning in today. And a very special thank you to all of you who continue to support this ministry. Your ongoing prayers and your financial contributions are necessary to keep us operating. That statement right there is a statement of spiritual and physical. All right? Now, if you care to contribute in a financial way, you can send your tithe or a gift to our center. And that address is 10417 South Orange Blossom Boulevard, Sebring, Florida 33875. You can make your check out to Unity or Unity Life Enrichment Center. And again, that address is 10417 South Orange Blossom Boulevard, Sebring, Florida 33875. Also, right below this video, we have made it possible for you to give online. If you have a prayer request, simply call the office. The number is 863-471-1122 and leave a message. Messages are checked daily, and be assured your request will remain confidential. Now, if you wish, you can also send your request and any comments or questions about this lesson via email. Our email address is unitysebring@gmail.com. You may also, if you are in need of prayer and need a one-on-one prayer, there is someone always waiting to pray with you at Silent Unity. And the Silent Unity number is 1-800-669-7729. And there you will get a one-on-one opportunity to pray or have someone pray with you. Now, if you are on Facebook, you're invited to join me and Adam Abbott on Sunday mornings about 10:30 a.m. on our Facebook page. There you can join us in a time of meditation and prayer. And I also will give you updates as to what has happened between today and on that Sunday and what we can look forward to. If you have not liked our Facebook page yet, please do so now. The link to like us is just to the right of this video. Select the link and you will have access to our weekly meditation and prayer service on your own page. Now, our Board of Trustees, again, has sought Spirit's guidance, and again, Spirit says, not yet. Wait another week. So with that, the center will remain closed through at least August 2nd. I'm so sorry. I want to be back with all of you. But until this pandemic starts to lighten up, we had 67 new cases just here in Highlands County today. And I know that there's always every way in which you want to interpret it. But Spirit, and the guidance that each of our board members has received, has said, not yet. So we always follow Spirit's guidance. Please know that the board will continue to seek guidance each week as to what action we are to take for the overall good of our congregation. I personally ask each of you to pray for every soul who has contracted COVID-19. We have had several people that within our community that we are now starting to get prayer requests and for them because they have been exposed to or they have COVID-19. So please just hold everyone in your prayer. See everyone divinely protected. See everybody stepping up and doing what they need to do to protect themselves as well. Hold their families and their friends and all of the frontline workers in your prayers as well too. See them as having a revelation that God is within them as they sojourn forth, knowing that they are loved and supported. And with the continuing rise in the numbers of positive cases and deaths that are being reported in our area and around the state, please see everyone taking, again, every necessary precaution to remain healthy. See people realizing that wearing a mask is an act of compassion and love, not only for self, but for everyone else. Let us be the ones who show the way by wearing a mask, by practicing social distancing. Let's wash our hands and hold the high watch, knowing that with God, we can move through this and we can then get together again. This, my friends, is how you can be a channel of God's love into the world. Until we meet again, I affirm that you are whole and healthy. I affirm you and I are spreading the love and joy of God that's within us with everyone that we know and think about and those that we meet. Peace, my friends. We'll see you soon. Bye for now.